I've had a lot of fun exploring the Secrets of Power metagame so far, and in today's deck profile, we're going to be going over the Chancellor Palpatine Energy Conversion Lab list that I have been toying around with a little bit. I've had a lot of incredible wins, and I've had some areas where I definitely see that this list could be improved and strengthened against other decks in the metagame. Of course, the metagame is like so wild and crazy and wide right now that it's hard to have something that's necessarily good against everything. But really, this is kind of like a proof of concept. This is a list that does some fun stuff. I have a lot of fun playing it. I wanted to explore it, and I want to share with you guys the Emperor Palpatine Energy Conversion Lab one-turn kill deck. You don't always do that, but when you do, it's a lot of fun. So we're going to call it that anyway. Let's jump right into it. What's up, everyone? It's Dan with Main Deck, and welcome back to another Star Wars Unlimited deck profile. We are posting these every week or 2 weeks here for the Secrets of Power metagame for a while, so if you want more of them, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you don't miss out on our future Star Wars Unlimited videos. Now, we're looking at Chancellor Palpatine, How Liberty Dies, the new Spotlight deck leader. And actually, I think a really good Spotlight deck leader, probably the best we've had since Jump to Lightspeed's deck leaders. Both Han and Boba Fett are doing a great, having a great run right now in the metagame. But Chancellor Palpatine, I think, is going to be pretty good right from the start. Now, what is his ability? You're going to pay 1 as an action and exhaust him to search the top 5 cards of your deck for a card with plot and reveal it and put it in your hand. So in a deck with a lot of plot effects, this is really pay 1, draw a card, which is pretty sweet. And that's kind of what we're trying to really take advantage of here in this list. Now, when you flip him, that's where it is the most exciting, because he's going to flip on 7, and he flips into a 6/8. And that 6/8 has just one ability. When deployed, the next card you play using plot this phase costs 3 less. So you're on 7 resources. He essentially gives you a total of like 10 resources to work with that turn. And we're going to use every single one of them because we have one specific goal in this deck. It is to flip Palpatine. It is to flood the board with units. We're going to put like something like 6 units in play at the same turn. And then the very next turn, once we're at 8 resources, we want to play Unity of Purpose. And we want to buff the board by +4, +4, +5, +5, something like that. And then just attack with everything and win the game. It is something that it does happen. It happens more often than you think. It's not just like, oh, like, I did that turn 2 executor deck. Like, is that ever really going to happen? Probably not. Does this happen? All the time. Now, how competitive your opponents are, what decks they're playing, those are certainly going to weigh into whether or not this is going to work. But it happens enough for me to be happy showing the list off. And beyond that, we're just playing basically a Vigilance Command control list. And we're just going to win the game by going late anyway. Sometimes you play Unity of Purpose, you don't win the game that turn, but you trade with all their stuff and you just put yourself in a position where, okay, now I feel kind of safe. I feel okay, and I can just go a little bit later and win the game a little longer. So that's Chancellor Palpatine. He is, man, he's really fun. I really like this. I definitely want to explore Palpatine in some other aspects as well, but right now we're using Energy Conversion Lab. And, okay, that's kind of dicey. I think Data Vault, again, a lot like the Boba Fett list we posted, Data Vault might be the most competitive choice here because you definitely, 25 is not a lot of HP. And there are a lot of decks right now that are not letting you take full advantage of that ECL. We try to a little bit with the list, but really what we want Energy Conversion Lab in here for is to be able to go ECL with Darth Vader Twilight of the Apprentice. Darth Vader Twilight of the Apprentice is going to let us do the kill any 2 things, including your opponent's leader, if you want to, combo where you give him ambush in. When played, you give a shield to him and the thing you want to kill, and then the on-attack triggers from the ambush. The ambush is going to kill whatever he's attacking. Usually he's going to take no damage back on the shield, and then the on-attack will kill the shielded unit. So you have to take out 2 things with that Darth Vader play, and that is so good when your opponent's trying to put pilots in space or just put out some scary thing, put out their leader, whatever. You can just kind of clear the board, and I love that you can do that on the 6 resource turn so that you can go into the 7 resource turn a lot less threatened by your opponent. There's less in play, there's less for you to have to worry about. You maybe even still have that Darth Vader in play so that he's going to be another thing that you're going to get to protect with your Sentinels, and then go into that Unity of Purpose turn and get a buff on him. All that feels really good. So that's really, and we have a couple other tricks we'll talk about with ECL. That's really where I'm trying to kind of make that 5 HP back. And I was a little afraid with Data Vault of just not having enough plot cards to find them as consistently, to whiffing with Chancellor Palpatine's activated ability more often. So I don't know. I decided it was worth it. It's fun enough. Although I definitely would experiment with the Data Vault, more kind of like full control versions instead. But for the Unity of Purpose, also, I mean, I don't want to go to 33 cards, or I don't want to go to 60 cards because I don't want to not find my Unity of Purpose and not get to do the fun thing. But anyway, without any further ado, let's jump into the rest of the list and make sure we talk through how everything else works in this deck. One thing you're going to point out right away is you're going to say I'm not playing enough 2-drops, and man, boy, that's true. I'm only playing Dr. Pershing that I actually want to play on turn 1, and Jar Jar Binks is the other option, but he's not really a good turn 1 play. But I don't think I mind. I just activate Palpatine turn 1 instead, and that feels pretty good to me. You just do the activation, just draw a card. Feels okay. If you find Pershing, great, you go for it, but I don't like a lot of the 2-drops in here, and you can play 2-drops just to try and trade with your opponent's early plays or something. Like, that's okay, but a lot of the ones that I would like to play are like Force Base or something. Those are like the higher value turn 1 plays, and I'm not going to put the Force Base in here. So I just decided it's all right. We're gonna get rid of those 2-drops. We're gonna use those slots to have more plot cards, to be more consistent with all that, to have more control options. And then at turn 1, a lot of the time, we're just gonna dig 5, find a plot card, make sure we're resourcing really cleanly with all of our plot cards. Unless we find a Pershing, and then we just draw a lot of cards instead. And that's worked just fine for me. But of course, Pershing is in here. Action, rest, deal a damage to a friendly unit, draw a card. He's going to draw 1 card if your opponent respects him and then kills him. Otherwise, he's going to draw a couple of cards, and in the late game, it can really help you kind of make sure you're winning the resource war against your opponent. It's not super necessary, honestly, to draw the cards, but it lets you find things that aren't the plot cards, and you do need to find those. You need to be able to draw into your Darth Vaders. You need to be able to draw into your Overwhelming Barrage, into your Resupplies, into your Power of the Dark Side, your Unity of Purpose. So definitely want to play that. Now, Jar Jar Binks, the first of our plot cards, and the plot cards are here. They're just here to put a gigantic board of plot things out. What he does, he's a 2/1 with 1 play to give another friendly unit +2/+2. Often you just give this to Chancellor Palpatine. So your attack that turn is going to kill their leader or attack in for a ton of damage. And then he sits out there as a 2/1. And that's fine. And that's his job. That's what he does. But all these plot cards, you're going to resource them. Your goal is to resource the widest variety of plot cards that you can, so that when you go into that flip turn, you can put out the exact perfect ones. Jar Jar Binks is often one of the ones you're going to play. Now, the one you always want to play is Chancellor Palpatine. I am the Senate. Well, not always. You're not going to play him in certain scenarios where you want to play First Light instead. But Chancellor Palpatine, I am the Senate, put down 3 bodies with this. 2/2 and then 2 0/2 spy tokens that also have Sentinel for the phase, which is going to protect the rest of your units if they have ground units. But otherwise, it puts out 3 bodies, which is why Unity of Purpose can do so much damage in this deck. Now, the kind of awkward thing is his name is also Chancellor Palpatine. So Chancellor Palpatine and Leader Chancellor Palpatine do not count as 2 separate units for the purpose of Unity of Purpose, but Chancellor Palpatine and Spy, those are 2 separate units. So at least you get those as well. So you do get the spy tokens with it, but you get a bunch of bodies just to put all of the buffs on instead, which is perfectly fine as well. Otherwise, yeah, protects the board. Really great. We're running all the ramp we can because we're a 7 flip, and man, we just need it. It's 3 super laser techs in here. 1 defeated, put a resource. That's all. We're trying to ramp. We're trying to get to 7 so we can flip and do our stuff. 2 Lom Pikes. I like Lom Pike in ECL decks. I think he's pretty cool in the ECL decks because you're able to kind of get that on attack to shield him, put a shield on some ship you're just not going to worry about. In fact, perhaps something that you condemned already, and then use that on attack to shield him and attack into something and get the kill on it. It can be a little clutch sometimes. Don't often want to spend your ECL necessarily on it. I mean, there are situations for sure, and that's why we play it. But you might use a timely intervention on a Lom Pike instead, or you can just smuggle him out late as an option. You don't really run out of resources. You don't run out of hand size in this deck. So the smuggle is less important, but maybe he's a holdover from an earlier time, but I do still like him in the ECL list. Mas Ameda, another plot unit. This is like, he's honestly the worst one. He's a 3/4 that puts some experience onto like himself, or sorry, not himself, but a Palpatine and a Jar Jar, or 2 Palpatines or something. He just can't target himself. Or a Slymore and a Palpatine. Yeah, he's fine. He's a body on the board with a unique name, so he works. You got to have him. That's why he's only 2 copies of him there, though. He's not as important as some of the other ones. Slymore, on the other hand, is the plot unit I have really come to appreciate, because even when you're not plotting it, she can just slow down your opponent's game, because again, you're on ECL. You're trying not to take too much damage before you can kind of just try and one-shot the opponent or just get control of the board. So I don't mind playing an extra Sly on turn 3 just to kind of slow things down. But definitely like playing it on that turn when they're playing to space and you do your flip turn. That Slymore is what's going to kind of like keep you safe in space when you're not going to try and invest everything into a first light, by making every enemy unit get -2/-0 when they attack your base, which is pretty cool. Also have 2 copies of Cad Bane impressed now, and I have actually been impressed by him. He's been pretty good. I definitely could see running a 3rd copy of it, because there are enough ways to get 2 or less remaining HP on units, especially with those ambushes that are happening, or your opponent's just going to sometimes put out... There's enough unique units in the game now, enough different units where your Phoenix Squadron A-Wing comes down, boom, it snipes that. He's been pretty decent, and I think the big thing that I like about him here is in ECL in particular, you have the ability to ECL or timely him to get the ambush to deal 4 to something and then resolve as 1 plate, so he actually can take out anything with 6 HP when you do that line, which is really nice. It's just another good kind of like tech option to have to try and maintain control of the board that we get by playing that ECL. Darth Vader, we already talked about him. He's here just to take control of the board, handle it with an ambush. That's what he's there for. We already went through the line, kill 2 things. You got to have a ground unit to ambush. That's the only thing. But when you do, he is crazy good. Now let's look at our space units. We're running 2 devastating gunships because it's a good ECL target. It's a lot like Cad Bane, where you get to attack into something and then defeat something with 2 or less remaining HP. So it gets that kind of extra damage over that threshold where it can kill the bigger ships that are in play, and then sometimes survive, and then threaten that grit damage, and threatens being a unique name on board for your flip turn. All that feels pretty good. I like it. It's been a good little 2 of in here. 2 copies of First Light as our 1 plot option to deal with space. Ambush, when it defeats units, you get to draw cards and you plot it. You don't usually want to, because it takes away from your Unity of Purpose turn, because you're putting, instead of a bunch of units, you're putting 1 big one in play and then like a Chancellor Palpatine or something. You know, honestly, it's when you need to do it, right? You're going to look at the board, you're going to look at space, like, I got to First Light this turn. I'm just going to First Light and then just threaten them with my Palpatine instead. And that's perfectly fine to do it that way. Again, we're just trying to have a toolbox of options to be able to control the game as best as possible. And then finally, 2 copies of Devastator. Because I found that you don't always win the game with the Unity of Purpose turn, or you don't find the Unity of Purpose, and you just are going to try and use your flip to control what's happening, and then you are going to just put out your Devastator and win the game that way. If they can't immediately answer it, it wins the game in about a single turn cycle, about a single phase. The game is usually over with that Devastator. So yeah, since we're controlling the game enough, we do go late enough for it to be relevant, and it is very good when it is, like it has been since set 1. Okay, and finally, let's look at all of our glorious control options to try and hold down the fort, which is all you're trying to do. Get to that flip turn without taking too much damage, and then flip, and then Unity. We're running 2 copies of Timely Intervention. Honestly, I could see the 3rd one here, because again, we just have enough things that are really good to ambush, and importantly, we draw enough cards. In this deck, you don't actually smuggle Timely Intervention. It doesn't matter. The Timely you just hold on to, just so you can ambush one of your things later. I really think, I'm actually convincing myself right now, I should put the 3rd Timely in here, because it's a nice card to hold on to, and then just go ahead and, yeah, fine, we're on turn 4 or whatever, I will just go and Timely in my Lom Pike and get that advantage. You're going to be holding so many cards because you activate Palpatine every time you have that extra resource to dig a little bit. You have the Pershing to draw cards. And then you're going to take that plot turn where you might not play anything from your hand either. You have huge hands with this, so Timely is a great card in hand specifically just to get those ambushes with. Power of the Dark Side, do I have to say anything? It kills stuff. It kills things turn 2. It gets rid of force units, stops them from getting the force. It kills anything late game when you've cleared the board. They drop a Devastator on you. You just power it, and then you can go ahead and put your own threats down. It's crazy good. Resupply. We have to ramp. I already said this. That's why it's here. It's going to put an extra resource in. No glory, only results. Man, I love this card. This is one of the best control options in the game. It feels so good. There's so many things that it kills and feels just fine to take them out, any non-leader unit. But when you're taking the Ruthless Raider, when you're taking the Super Laser Tech and you're getting to your one-turn kill a little faster, that feels really good. And sometimes they're going to play something like a Lurking TIE Phantom. I was trying to think of the name. Lurking TIE Phantom that can't be defeated while your opponent controls it, but you take it and destroy. Yeah, I mean, like, all those little cheeky things that it does are super good. It is my kind of my go-to option for the I need to kill something on the board. No glory, only results. I run 2 Overwhelming Barrage in here. It is extremely good to clear board if you're not going to win the game with Unity of Purpose the turn after you flip, so it's definitely worth having in the deck. And there are situations where like a Darth Vader can stick in play, or sometimes that Devastating Gunship has got that grit, and then you go to the next turn and then you Overwhelming Barrage with your gritted up gunship to deal like 7 to the board or something. That all feels really good. It's a nice 2 of. We don't play enough to the board early enough to want to play 3 of this. I've liked it exactly at 2 actually. And then 1 copy of Rival's Fall. It's the answer, the out to anything. I always like to have 1 of it in the control decks just because, yeah, okay, kill the leader, kill the Devastator, kill whatever. It can do the trick. And then finally, Unity of Purpose. I already talked about it. We already showed it on the screen, but this buffs everything equal to the number of different unit names you have. And this is how we get our 1-turn kill after we put 5 or 6 things on the board with that Palpatine plot turn. You know, the Palpatine plot turn is going to be something like Jar Jar pumping Palpatine, Slymore, Cad Bane. Sorry, not Cad Bane. Palpatine, Cad Bane. So Jar Jar, Palpatine, Cad Bane, Jar Jar, Slymore, Masameta is another one. Palpatine First Light is another one. You know, you're going to do some line that are like plotting all those things. And so you're going to have like 5 or 6 units in play. And then that's when you drop the Unity of Purpose, pump the board. And then if they can't kill you, if they haven't done enough, they can't kill you fast enough, or clear your board, you just take them out right there, which feels great. And then finally, 1 upgrade in here, 3 copies of Condemn. I've loved this card. It has been so clutch. This card just neutralizes so many threats. So you have to make sure you understand how this works. It's while the attached unit is attacking, it gains this on attack ability, which is going to reduce its power, and it loses all of the other abilities while it's attacking. So you can't use this to like get rid of Sentinels or anything. That doesn't work. But you can use it just to neutralize any threat. And then when that is attacking, it's not going to have its on attack abilities. It's not going to have a when defeated if it were to attack into something and die. So just make sure you understand, you know, that it doesn't lose the abilities except while it's attacking. But otherwise, this is a fantastic card. You're always going to have a blue-black card in your hand because you draw so many cards. And so it's just going to be able to handle a lot of threats. I love it. I think this has been kind of like a sleeper hit for me from the set. I think this rare is super good, and it's going to be a control deck card that we see, I think, for a long time going forward. And so that's the list. That's the combo. That's what you're doing. If you love the idea of playing out a gigantic board and then doing the 1-turn kill with Unity of Purpose, if you like just playing control decks that have maybe a slightly different late game feel, definitely give it a shot. Try it out, sleeve it up, see if it works for you. But let's quick talk about 5 cards that I would consider sideboarding. And if you're going to bring this to a local, a best 2 out of 3 game or anything higher, let's talk about those. All right, now these are honestly pretty easy for me. A number of these are just shoring up copies of cards in the deck. Devastating Gunship, another card to bring in against space. You got to have ways to deal with the space. So I definitely think that is a good option to bring in. Another card that I think you would love to have another copy of in certain matchups is going to be Devastator. When the game is going super late, you know you need to play that control game. Putting another copy of Devastator in is super good. Now, another thing for dealing with space decks is Entrenched. Sometimes you just have to let its space go, and these Entrenched will let you just kind of hold down the fort there until you are able to just do because your combo is entirely ground-based. So you can just dump everything on board on ground, Unity of Purpose, and then win the game. So Entrench is a perfect card to consider when you're trying to just say, I want to ignore space entirely and just win the game, deal with my ground threats, deal with anything I can in space using these Entrench, Condemns, whatever, and then attack in with Unity for victory. Now, one card that I really don't like having to deal with this deck is Super Laser Blast. There are enough ways to kind of get one resource ahead to where that blast is threatening you on your Unity of Purpose turn. So I don't think it's a bad idea at all to put Regional Governor in the side. I think it's really good as a card you can bring in and name Super Laser Blast to try and force them to, you know, find the kill on your own Regional Governor before they can resolve the Super Laser Blast. It can maybe hold you down for just a little bit to be able to get the kill, especially if you can play that and then take initiative and flip Palpatine and put out your Sentinels and protect the Regional Governor that way. That's not a bad line at all. But also there are just a lot of decks these days where you kind of know what they're doing. You kind of know how they're trying to win the game. The Regional Governor can kind of keep them off of their game, slow them down if you know exactly what card to name. In fact, there are a lot of Unity of Purpose decks running around right now. And Regional Governor naming Unity of Purpose is not a terrible plan against those decks either. And finally, you know what? We do draw so many cards in this deck that we are very vulnerable to other control decks that want to just play a couple Vigilances and mill us out. So a couple of restocks is a pretty good way to close out our sideboard and make sure that we're able to play the longer game if they're really just going to try and go for it. If we're answering everything, they're answering everything, and they are going to mill us to win, well, we got to have an out to that, and then try and just, you know, get back some of those cards that we can use to close the game, get back the Devastators, so that we can eventually score that win, even if the game is going to super long. And that's the thing that Restock does super well, and it is an easy card to include. So that is our list. That is our Chancellor Palpatine Energy Conversion Lab Unity of Purpose, kind of a slightly wild build of it. I would love to know what you guys think of this list. If you think there are some improvements that you can make to it, or if you've tried it out and you had a good experience, bad experience, whatever, let me know down in the comments below what you think. It's just another kind of goofy build that we like to explore here on Main Deck. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. We'll have more Star Wars content coming weekly, so make sure you subscribe if you want to catch that, and we'll see you all in the next one.